Hello everybody, this is Maniac for Bricks, and I am here today with set number 70795, Mask Maker vs. Skull Grinder. This is a set from LEGO Bionicle, ages 8 to 14, has 171 pieces, includes 2 figures, and is available in 2015 for the retail price of $30 in the United States. According to the back of the box, we see a small comic depicting the scene. Basically, the Mask Maker and the Skull Grinder are fighting for the Mask of Creation. There's also a combo model showing that you can add this onto 70794, sold separately, to create a larger model. So let's take a look at our figures right now. We have Ikimu on the left, and also known as the Mask Maker. And we have the Skull Grinder on the right. Now, as far as the story goes, we don't know too much about the Skull Army that's arising, but they are challenging the Toa and the Protectors to obtain the Mask of Creation, a prized possession at this point in Bionicle. So we'll take a look at each figure on their own, and then I will give my overall thoughts later on. We'll start things off with the Mask Maker, Ikimu. He is the creator of the Mask of Creation. We'll also have that mask next to him during this part of the review. As far as Ikimu, I think he actually looks really good. And compared to the comics and the online animations, he does represent the colors very well. Mostly a trans blue and pearl gold color to him. It's very well integrated in his appearance for all the limbs and the armor on him, and even blends in well with the mask. The mask is a regular protector mask in a new color variation, and he does have the same head and brain stalk as the others, so it has the same feature of taking the mask off from the back. Now, he does have a similar build to the Protectors, as you can see towards the back, but this time he has it with a gear function. So you could actually move his arm up and down on the gear piece on the back. It has a lot of friction back there, so you can easily just move the arm without the gear and pose it in different ways. New armor pieces are attached onto the shoulders, which make him very unique. And I also like how there are 3 joints for each arm, so you have a bit of mobility for moving the figure around. On this particular arm, you have a few little things here that are pretty interesting to look at. The red is a little offsetting, but I do like how the hammer is designed piece-wise. And this one also has a hidden feature to it. In the front, it has a stud launcher, which is common with other Protectors. And what you can do from the back of it, you simply turn this part and it'll launch the studs. You're given a total of 12 of them in the set, 6 you can add on, and then the other 6 are treated as extras. So in case you lose them all over the place, you have more to work from. The back of the legs also look relatively okay, again for the color, even though there is an armor to protect it. But it does still have a lot of mobility on the legs as well. Now let's go on to the other arm, which has its own stationary holding, but you can still move it around by the ball joints. The hand you do have to turn sideways in order to fit the shield onto him, and the shield works as a spinning shield, so you have this little gear in the back to spin it around. It does have a nice look to it, and it has a similar piece used from Ninjago and Disney Princess incorporated into there. I don't think it's too offsetting for that design for the shield. It actually looks pretty nice with the rest of it. And overall, Ikimu looks pretty good for his appearance and plays pretty well as a Protector type figure with the other Bionicle characters. Now we'll take a look at the Mask of Creation, which interestingly has its own stand to it. This one is made out of some very simple pieces, and you might notice a little change. In the instructions, they show you add the mask on the holes on these Technic pieces. I actually moved it a little further up from there because it does hold a little better. Even though you have that small piece in the back that's intended to hold the mask in place, if you have this resting on here, it is loose and does fall over. A little adjustment and no illegal building techniques required, and you have it standing up pretty well. The Mask of Creation is very great in design. If you look at it very closely, you can see a lot of excellent detail on there. I really appreciate those little markings on the ends, so it really brings it together as an ancient and important mask. Like all other 2015 Bionicle masks, you can take them off from the back, and you can even take the Mask of Creation and put it on. You can even put this onto the Skull Grinder, not just the Mask Maker, and it makes for a nice appearance. I think this actually looks a little bit better for the Mask Maker with the Mask of Creation on him. Up next, we'll take a look at the Skull Grinder. This is one of the Skull Army members and is intended to get the Mask of Creation. You can actually fit the mask inside of his large axe piece on the top, and you may or may not get an actual pose that's shown on the box to have him reaching for it. It's a little bit unsteady with his arm, but we'll get more into that a little bit later. You can see he has mostly a bony appearance to really get that skull and skeleton look across, which is actually pretty neat. The only problem with it is you can't really get a lot of bendable joints in like in the elbows or on the knees. They're mostly the same types of ball joints that we get with the rest of the figure. So as far as posing it in different ways, it can be a little tricky. You know, you can't really bend them out much more, otherwise they'll just pop off. They do have some pretty unique pieces on here, especially these kind of fur elements. I'm not entirely sure what they are. Maybe they're kind of like ripped armor from the past, but it looks pretty interesting, gives him a unique appearance, something we also see with the other Skull Army members as well. The mask on him is pretty unique. I do like the look of it, and I also like how the horns reach out from the mask and head area. And they're not attached onto the mask itself, they're actually attached onto the brainstalk, but it still looks pretty nice when the mask is attached on there. Now, as far as his function, we get the same gearbox, but with both arms being operated at the same time. So you can turn this and both of the arms move different ways. And you can still somewhat pose the arms upright, but depending on how you're holding, especially the right arm, it may be a little tricky to get different poses with it, otherwise it'll just fall back down. It's a lot easier with the left arm because the weapon on it is much lighter. It is also, again, another unique element for this new wave of Bionicle figures, so I do appreciate that. The color scheme for this figure also seems to be pretty impressive. And let me see if I can get that arm up again. Kind of like a downward jab. Nope. See, that's what I mean. Even though there is friction inside of the arms, you can see it a little bit right there. Then it's not really enough to hold the entire arm upright. If you had the double double bits of friction like we had on Akimu's arm, then it might be a little bit better off in making that work. Otherwise, it's mostly gonna fall down due to gravity. But I still like the appearance for this figure. It definitely has a menacing look to it. The printed part isn't too bad either. I actually like how that looks. And the weapons are pretty interesting. I like how it has like a large weapon to show some sort of dominance and fear striking into it. But also it has a smaller weapon for closer hand-to-hand combat. So, as I said with the Akimu, you can take off the mask from the Skull Grinder and then attach the Mask of Creation onto him, perhaps the bad ending for this fight. What I really like is, even though he has these two horns on the sides, the Mask of Creation fits on there perfectly. You can still move the head around and there's no problems with it. The horns themselves are actually unique pieces I haven't seen many other times. And if you have, let me know in the comments, because it's pretty interesting how these attach, and you can even angle them a little bit if you want to get different, accents for the character. So overall, I'm really pleased with this set. This is one of the first box sets that we get with the Bionicle characters, and I really like that they paired both of these together to cut down a little bit on the cost. If they were separate, they might actually cost a little bit more, roughly the same amount, but it still wouldn't have a place for the Mask of Creation to fall in. So I really like how it's all together and gives you two figures at once that you can easily build. They both have gears, they both have a bit of posability to them, and their own unique weapons, so you can have a nice fight with them. And I would have to say, as far as anything that's bad with it, really nothing wrong with the piece count. I understand that a lot of these are newer, larger pieces, so yes, 171 pieces does seem low on the price per piece count for this set. But consider that this is not your typical LEGO set. Usually Technic and Bionicle do have a bit of difference in the price per piece ratio compared to an average LEGO set. I do like the new designs for some of the features, and I also want to mention that Skull Grinder can be a bit bony, but I think that's okay because that's kind of the idea of the figure. Even though he has gaps and open ball joints in some parts, that's part of the characteristic of the figure itself in its appearance. So I'm totally okay with that, and I definitely enjoy the Mask of Creation. So overall, I will give this set a 4.25 out of 5. It's really good value for what you're getting in this set. It's got a lot of interesting play features for both characters, and I think it's worthy of obtaining if you're a Bionicle fan in 2015. So thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to check out some other Bionicle reviews, not only from 2015, but even in the Generation 1 of Bionicle, 2001 to 2010. We'll see you next time with more LEGO videos that are used. I like the way that the shape is made so that it can function well. Although the function is probably the primary part of this model that you could really use. I mean, there's not much.